Welcome to the Fantasy Thinker. And I'm Jerry Kornowich. And today I'm going to be doing a reaction kind of review of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. Classic sci fi masterwork. This is the fourth in a series that I'm doing a read along with the great people from pagechewing.com. This is a sci-fi masterwork, and of course, it is a classic. Um, but I've never read it before until now, kind of. Um, something finally clicked with me while I was reading this book, or I should say, all it took was reading this book. Um, so there is, today, these days, a pervading fear of artificiality running through our society. So when did that begin? Well, this book was written back in 1968, and of course, other sci-fi mentions AI. That mentions AI, and were around before this book. But really, this book epitomizes that fear in an interesting and frightening way. um, of course, Blade Runner is a movie that stole all the ideas from this book to make the movie that it is. Garnered a ton of critical praise, and I liked it when I saw it way back in the '80s. But it never really affected me like it seemed to affect some other people. I was kind of a Star Wars guy through and through back then. And the setting of Blade Runner was a little too dark for me. The characters were a little too weird. So fast forward years later, I've read a ton of books and I've watched a ton of movies and shows. But this book never really called out to me, and I really forgot about it. Um, and then I guess Boom Studios put out a comic book adaptation in 2009. So I picked it up. I was a comic book collector, so I was into that stuff. And so these comic books were deluxe format, which means like really extra thick issues, like I think like 64 pages instead of your typical 30 or whatever, um, or 24. And so the series ran 24 issues, um, and this book's only 260 pages or whatever. So 24 issues of a comic is a lot. And when I was reading the comic, it kind of felt like the prose of the book was just pretty much printed on top of some pretty pictures. And after reading this book, I noticed I was right. So if you look here, um, so the comic, it was okay. It still didn't quite grab me. And that was because like the comic, it didn't really feel like a comic book. It felt like a picture book, which has a different artistic quality to it. I think I think this kind of interfered with my ability to absorb the story the way it was meant to be. So after reading the book and enjoying it, I have a feeling that I would like the comic better now because I think it was created for only for people who have already read the book and not new possible fans. So fast forward to today. Today, of course, there is more talk than ever about AI, artificial intelligence, and I kind of find it amazing that Philip K. Dick was able to capture the fear of a generation, 2 generations ahead of time. That is what this book does. Of course, there's a big difference between PKD's androids and the artificiality of the internet and chatbots and stuff like that. But the correlation is there. That fear of being replaced by something else, something worse, something that humans created. And so Dick plays with the idea of how do we detect when something is artificial, when it looks and acts so real? That is a genuine concern nowadays. With the Chat GBT, like, is that something created by that? Is that real? Was it created by a person? Was it created by an artificial intelligence? It really is something that is so relevant today. So right in the opening line of this book, Philip is setting the stage for like assigning emotion to a non-living entity. The line is a merry little surge of electricity. Of course, electricity cannot be merry. It's That's an emotive quality that's assigned by us to personify something. Um, Electricity is a thing. It doesn't have emotions. So humans instinctively personify objects or animals as a part of our evolutionary makeup. And so the creation of a conscious like entity seems like a natural progression of that instinct. So the premise of the book is that some of these android creations are out of humanity's control and need to be hunted down. So at some point, it was deemed that we went too far, and so this main theme that we have running through the book is this detection of empathy. And why does having empathy, what does having empathy mean, and how do we detect it? And so PKD, he presents to us this futuristic devices like a box that has settings to alter your mood on command. And he gives us this concept of having animals as the greatest treasure because they are more rare, and it's like this is like a post-apocalyptic type of era here. So all these ideas are put forth, these big ideas, and it's just so um relevant to how things are today. Except in this novel back in 68, I think it's more of a bit more of a physical literal sense rather than today, where it's the effect of our own choosing. Really, we choose to go online, we choose to interact with this social media, and this idea of artificial intelligence isn't something physical in front of us. It's actually what we're looking at, and what the things that we're looking at does to us. So that's the difference between old sci-fi and something more modern. But the the uh, the sense of worry and the sense of anxiety and the sense of that sense of artificial intelligence replacing us. The fear of that is still there in this book, and it's very relevant. So he's not like, as far as comes when it comes to prose, it's nothing super spectacular. There are some minor flaws in the text, some minor word choices, or like repetitive phrases that could have been adjusted for clarity. There's a couple of unclear concepts that didn't quite sit right with me. Um, but it's the ideas that matter. He does a great job of making us, the reader, ask more questions than he answers. And most importantly, the book raises even more questions to the future generations that it was reaching out to ahead of its time. And so I am so glad that I've come around to reading the original text that made such a headway into the science fiction community, um, for future writers. So, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? A wonderful book by Philip K. Dick. And I feel that you should definitely go ahead and pick this up. All right, that's it for now. Be good to each other, and thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe below.